was a moonlit night. Henry was working with Edward. The big green engine was taking a goods train to the old station by the lake. A restoration project was currently in progress to bring the station and the town surrounding it back to its former glory. Henry was getting ready to leave in a few minutes.
Whenever that owl hoots, a mist rolls in,
Murmured Edward.
There's a legend that when the mist's about, there's a ghost about too. Take care of the old line, Henry, lest you see something down there.
Stupid bird,
Said Henry, and he left the sheds to collect his train. Edward sighed and looked in the moon in the sky.
No one's been down that old line in ages. Henry is bound to get into trouble. I just can't get through to my friends anymore, can I?
owls, mists, ghosts. Edward's gone soft in the boiler. There's no mist.
But Henry was wrong. Cried Henry as he slowed to a stop.
It's an amber lamp.
Murmured his driver,
That means proceed with caution. Who's there?
but no one replied. Henry crept slowly forward. He stopped at a sign labeled, "Beware of the Viaduct." The driver was surprised.
No one warned us about that before. Hey, look! The signal's right at the crossing gates are closed! And there's a fogman's coat. But where's its owner?
Then they saw a light move within the station building.
Ghosts! Edward was right.
Something very strange is going on.
Said his driver.
I think it's best we head back. We can't get through anyway, and I'm not risking my engine, fireman, and I as Mia.
I think so too.
Agreed Henry, and very quickly he puffed away.
Someone's out there in that mist.
Cried Henry, but when his driver peeked out, nobody was there.
I swear he was just standing there. Then I blinked and he was gone.
Don't worry about that now. We need to get back to the yard as soon as possible.
Then there was trouble. The guard in the brake van looked back to see another lamp.
Someone's behind us!
And the guard applied his brakes in the brake van. Henry followed suit, and the train soon screeched to a halt. The guard opened his eyes to see that Edward was mere inches away from his brake van, his lights shining brightly.
You're lucky you reacted in time.
Said Edward. Henry heard his voice and looked behind him.
Edward, you were right. There is a ghost.
Oh, there is? I always told myself it was a legend. That he was gone for good.
What's that supposed to mean, Edward? Now is not the time to be vague.
What did you see out there?
Edward interjected, cutting to the chase. Henry was hesitant to talk, and Edward soon realized this.
If you want to bring it up, that is.
It was an assortment of things, Edward.
And Henry told Edward all about what happened.
Seems more like human activity than paranormal activity, but to each their own.
But someone was in the mist and then disappeared.
Which I acknowledge. I'm not sure if there's a logical explanation for that in particular, but do you know where the legend comes from?
What legend?
That when the mist's about, there's also a ghost?
No, I only know because you told me an hour ago and no one else did until now.
Well, get back to the sheds and I shall tell you. I can't keep this hidden for long.
So Henry did. And when they got back to the sheds, Edward started to tell Henry all about the legend.
So, it starts like this.
And so Edward began his story.
Long ago, the island of Sodor was being used to build new railways. As railways popped up across the island, the towns and villages were all connected like never before. However, One particular railway, the Soder and Mainland Railway, failed to promise the town of Peel Godred a branch line which would span from their town to Kildane. The company soon ran out of money, and that led to the creation of the Mid-Soder Railway. Eventually, a standard gauge branch line opened in 1923, shortly after you arrived. One of the stations provided rail traffic to the small town of Hawin Lake, which also had a large viaduct looking over a ravine. This is a smaller line that was accessible via a junction. Hawin Lake, or alternatively pronounced Hawin Lake, in itself was a quiet but very conservative town. Although they were delighted at the idea of a railway connecting them to the rest of the island, some specific residents of the town detested the idea of their serene environment being disturbed by outsiders. As the line grew and more trains came, the town also grew with it, although it was very clear the locals were not accustomed to the mass amounts of people coming in from outside their circle. The station master of Hawin Lake was a particular case of this. He was local to the area and was hired as a station master by the Northwestern Railway as he was looking for employment. He wasn't a very nice individual, nor was he a very social one either. He would always mutter about the various trivial things we engines would do. If we were late, he'd berate us. If we talked back, we were berated. And even if we looked him in the eyes, we were berated. Sadly though, despite our complaints to Sir Topham Hatt I, the station master was doing his job, and he did so very well. Never did he skip a beat of how many passengers gone on a coach, or how many crates were put into one truck. His records are so meticulous, he even took note of what the passengers are wearing, along with distinct facial features. He could also tell if an engine was given a bad hand of coal from their smoke input, and he took note of this as well. As the years went on, the station master talked less and less, but wrote in his records more. When the Great Depression rolled around, Hawin Lake was not getting as much traffic as it did before, and to keep himself occupied, the station master often camped out in the misty woods. He brought only the bare essentials with him, but he took an uncanny amount of firewood and matches with him on these camping trips. The campfires he made were so big that they might as well have been bonfires, and people soon noticed. One fateful night in 1935, quite like this one, the station master had enough. Just a week ago, without prior warning, he was replaced by a newer and younger station master, who was friendlier and far more extroverted. The station master was very cross. He was cross with the fact that he was replaced with no warning, no letter, not even a full meeting with Sir Topham Hatt. He was just cast aside. Something inside the man snapped, and he wanted revenge. Because of his records being so meticulous, he was able to track down and identify people of interest, including Sir Topham Hatt and his board of directors. He was able to pinpoint their residences after circumventing the whole island within 2 weeks, always camping out in the most unlikely of places. His once great bonfires are now small flames, for he was planning to keep his great spectacles for his revenge. And on that night, he struck. He took a truck loaded with wood, gasoline, dynamite, and gunpowder, and set to work. He drove to Kildane first, where one of the board of directors lived. He was fast asleep with his wife, and didn't hear the truck parked just in front of his house. The station master eyed the residence carefully. He entered through the back door, which was, to his surprise, unlocked. He sneaked into the house and saw the unlit fireplace, seeking an opportunity to burn the board director's house from the inside. He lit the fireplace. He then tossed one of his own logs into the fire, which bounced back and hit the floor as he intended. The spark lit the log, and soon the parquet floor started to burn. He then made sure the doors were barricaded so the board director could not exit. He made a run for it as the house erupted into flames, scrubbing one target off his list. He went to another one living in Timoth. This is the executive he suspected told Sir Topham Hatt to fire him. He lit a fire from behind his house. The grass surrounding it was set ablaze, and soon the various trees around it started to catch fire as well. By now, firefighters had been alerted, and he was soon running out of time. He drove back to Kildane, preparing his next move. He didn't figure out the resident of his replacement. He lived in his town, Hawin Lake. In a morbid act of revenge, while the new station master was sleeping, the station master poured gasoline all over his house, inside and out. While the replacement man was quick to wake up, it was too late as he was quickly consumed by the fire, which was in danger of spraying the whole village into the station. The next target of the station master was now Sir Topham Hatt himself. He tried to drive all the way back to Knapford to his offices, but then he was stopped by me. I was called to deal with an arson situation in Hawin Lake, but I didn't know I'd face him. I took the breakdown train and other essential cars, racing for Hawin Lake. I could already smell smoke and see the bright orange light of fire from several buildings as I passed. Eventually I saw his truck race by me, heading for Knapford. I didn't know what to do at that moment. Should I apprehend him, or should I go rescue the individuals harmed? I chose the latter, but I never took my mind off him. I did what I could to rescue the people involved in the arson attacks. I couldn't save everybody, sadly, especially the new station master. He and his house were already charred by the time I got there. Soon, firefighters from Peel Goddard arrived, and our main objective was to chase after him. I raced back to Napford to see if he was already at Down Hat's office. I got there just in time as he was about to reach the station. I whistled long and loud, and very soon he saw that he was cornered. He made a U-turn back to Hawin Lake, and I followed in pursuit, going backwards down the main line. I ran back in Kildane and went forwards this time. I never took my eyes off his truck. Just then an owl hooted, and a mist rolled in. My driver urged me to slow down so I wouldn't hit another engine, but I insisted I kept on going. The pursuit lasted all the way to Hawin Lake, where I then noticed the house of the new station master collapsed in the inferno. The firefighters hard at work to keep the other houses from going up in flames. I reached the station master down the branch line, right into the viaduct. With no more road to save himself, the station master saw some explosives in front of the landslide to block my path. He, however, miscalculated the blast strength, and the ground beneath him and his truck gave way. He is now on the verge of falling over the ravine. In a moment's notice, though, I came around the bend, I saw the landslide and tried to stop, but I didn't stop fast enough as I collided with his truck and the landslide.